from the book of Jonah, chapter 1, and reading from verse 7. Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord, because he had already told them. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried to the Lord, "O Lord, please do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, O Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. But the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was inside the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Hear the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. I would say after the Colin, each persecute congregation, each verse, second the last 2 verses, which will say together that verse 31 and 32. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. For his loving mercy is forever. Let the Lord redeem say so. Whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy, and gathered in every land, from the east and from the west, from the north and from the south. Those who go down to the sea in ships, and follow the train on great waters. These men have seen the works of God, and his wonders indeed. For he spoke and raised the storm wind, and he lifted high the waves of the sea. They go up to the sky, and down again to the depths. They carry charts away in place of disaster. They reel and stagger like drunken men. Then they cried to the Lord in their distress, and he took them out of their trouble. He calmed the storm to a silence, and the waves of the sea were stilled. Then they were glad because they were quiet, and he brought them to the haven they longed for. Let them thank the Lord for his goodness, and for the wonders that he does for the children of men. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the people, and praise him in the council of the elders. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, it is now, and will be forever.
Paul and other prisoners who were handed over to a centurion to set sail for Italy. On the 14th night, we were still being driven across the Adriatic Sea, when about midnight, the sailors sensed they were approaching land. They took soundings, and found that the water was about 37 meters deep. A short time later, they took soundings again and found it was only about 27 meters deep. Fearing that we would be dashed against the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight. In an attempt to escape from the ship, the sailors let the lifeboat down into the sea, pretending they were going to lower some anchors from the bow. Then Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, "Unless these men stay with the ship, you cannot be saved." So the soldiers cut the ropes that held the lifeboat and let it fall away. Just before dawn, Paul urged them all to eat. "For the last 14 days," he said, "you have been in constant suspense and have gone without food. You haven't eaten anything. Now I urge you to take some food. You need it to survive. Not one of you will lose a single hair from his head." After he said this, he took some bread and gave thanks to God in front of them all. Then he broke it and began to eat. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Altogether, there were 276 of us on board. When they had eaten as much as they wanted, they lightened the ship by throwing the grain into the sea. When daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but they saw a bay with a sandy beach where they decided to run the ship aground if they could. Cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. The bar stuck fast and would not move, and the stern was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surf. The soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming away and escaping. But the centurion wanted to spare Paul's life and get them from carrying out their plan. He ordered those who could swim to jump aboard first and get to land. The rest were to get on their planks or on pieces of the ship. In this way, everyone reached the land in safety. Once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us all because it was raining and cold. Hear the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. To the good news as it is proclaimed in the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 4, and reading from the 18th verse.
Glory to Christ our Saviour.
As he walked by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus saw 2 brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. As he went from there, he saw 2 other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, in the boat with their father Zebedee, mending their nets. He called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. This is the gospel of Christ.
Praise to Christ our Lord.
As we stand, let us pray. Lord God, we ask you to open your word hearts and our hearts to your word. Through Jesus Christ, your living word. Amen. Please be seated. Having a little bit of a blank at the beginning of the service, and the reason why I couldn't find the name quickly enough was it's actually not there. The regional director of the Mission to Seafarers for the African Seaboard is Cedric Rautenbach, and he sends greetings to Trinity and says thank you very much for giving attention and bringing awareness to a whole bunch of landlubbers of the work of the Mission to Seafarers. That's Cedric. Now, if you turn over that sheet of paper, Oh the Deep, Deep Love of Jesus, which actually did very well, because it's not easy musically speaking, but this piece, this hymn, apart from the first verse, which comes from another hymn, was actually composed by Graham Kendrick, one of our modern time hymn writers. And it has actually been written specifically as a dedication to the 1.2 million seafarers that are sailing around the world, bringing us our cars, taking our sugar and our mealies away from us. The wonderful oranges called outspan. I don't know if you can still get outspan oranges. But in any event, this hymn was specifically composed, and every year, on the second Sunday in July, we sing this hymn. So I'd just like to draw your attention to it. But we have two stories before us today, three stories, and the three stories all in some way are connected to the sea. Firstly, we hear a very familiar story to us, the story of Jonah, whom God called to go and warn the Ninevites. If they don't change their way of life, God's going to destroy them. Or their lifestyle will destroy them, and God would be very upset about it. We know the story very well, so I don't have to go through it. But Jonah, for some reason, doesn't think that the Ninevites are deserving of God's offer of salvation. Now, we can surmise why he doesn't think that. It may be because of his own prejudice. It may be simply that he doesn't want to, as a good Jew, doesn't want to make himself all dirty by going into Nineveh. We don't know. So what does Jonah do? He runs away. He runs in the opposite direction to a place called Tarshish. And I've noticed that some modern people are also rushing off to Tarshish these days. They go to northern Spain and they do the Camino de Compostela. By the way, Spain, we think that Spain is Tarshish. Okay? The ends of the earth, the ends of the known world, where he doesn't think that God's going to get his grubby little hands on him and make him go to these filthy people called the Ninevites. It's as far away as he can possibly go from what he believes is God's purpose for his life. Perhaps the psalmist who composed Psalm 139 knew and understood fully the implications of Jonah's story when the psalmist writes, "If I take the wings of the morning and I settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast." It doesn't matter where you go, as God's got the whole world in God's hand. The story of Jonah running away from God's call is perhaps a story about us really. Often, under the guise of, oh, I'm still discerning my calling, we spend most of our time running away from God's call. But it is in the midst of our prejudices, in the midst of our feelings of inadequacy, perhaps in the midst of someone else's fear that we're engaging with, or when we're running away, that moment is where we actually encounter God's presence and who respond to God's call. Kicking and screaming, Jonah was chucked overboard. And God made a way for him to still go to Nineveh. Let me contrast that with the gospel passage today. 4 people, 2 sets of brothers, Simon and Andrew. I have to think about this. James and John, the sons of thunder, have an encounter with Jesus on the seashore. Well, the lake shore. It's not really a sea, it's a lake. The Sea of Galilee. And if you listen to the gospel passage, there was a very big difference between their response to Jesus and Jonah's response to God. Simon and Andrew leave everything and they go immediately. The word immediately is there. And then he meets James and John, the sons of Zebedee, and they leave him, they leave the workers, and they go immediately. Of course, if you read Luke, there might have been a little bit of teaching before, and they might have already encountered Jesus, and so when Jesus did come and say, "Make fish for people," perhaps they already knew Jesus. But there is something about the charisma of Christ that made them leave everything. And then we move to the story of St. Paul, and I think, and the shipwreck, and I think that this is important because when we actually do finally respond to God's call, whether we did it like Jonah, or whether we did it like the brothers James and John, and the brothers Simon and Andrew, this is how things happen. So we have a story, and thank you, Aldine, for pointing out the bit, because if I really want, we should have actually read that whole section, but we would have been here all day. The ship, Aldine pointed out that Paul is being taken to Rome under arrest for trial. Remember that he appealed to Herod Agrippa that he be tried under Roman law as a Roman citizen, not under Jewish law. And in this trip that he's taking, he's going on or to Italy, specifically to Rome, he has already earned the respect of the Roman officer, the Roman centurion on board the boat who's in charge of the prisoners and the guards that are looking after the guards. And he's actually, even though they're not so sure about this strange character Paul with a thorn in his side, the sailors. So the ship has failed to find a port to winter, to stay safe during winter, and they attempt to sail to the nearest good port a little too late in the season. They didn't have things like sailors' almanacs like we do today that say, hey, don't sail between June and July because you're not going to get there. Not from here anyway. They didn't have an almanac to say when is the bad weather. They didn't have fancy weather instruments that we have today that tell us there's bad weather coming. And they encounter a storm. The storm hits the crew of the ship. The storm hits and the crew of the ship try a couple of times in this passage to abandon the ship. Each time, Paul stops them. Why Paul would want to do that because he's going to Rome to stand trial, I don't know. But maybe it's because he knows that he's taking the gospel with him to Rome. But Paul, all the way through, encourages prisoners, encourages the guards, encourages the centurion, even the sailors. Even though he's trying to encourage them, the sailors try to escape again. Maybe they like Jonah, they don't really want to go with Paul to Rome. So what does Paul do? Paul gets the Roman officer to stop them again. This time they've cast away the lifeboats. And in that Paul gets them all to sit down. You haven't eaten for 14 days. You need energy. You need food. Sit down, have something to eat, and they all eat together. The sailors then try to run the ship aground. We have all that nautical terminology. Stern, that's the back part of the boat. Bow is the front part of the boat. And they're trying to run this boat aground. And they manage it. It hits a sandbank and it breaks up from the stern. That's the back part of the boat. And then the Roman soldiers decide that maybe we should kill some of these prisoners, because if they get away, they'll escape and it'll be on our head. The officer, wanting to save Paul, of course, stops them. Remember, Paul had gotten his, had earned the respect of this Roman centurion. Anyway, cut a long story short, they end up on the beach in Malta. Not quite in the same way that we would like to when we go on a cruise ship and then we go to Malta and go to the beach. They end up on the beach. And the people of Malta, the Maltese people, show unusual kindness. Everyone, over 200 people, are saved. They are welcomed by those local people, the Maltese people, and they make a fire and there's warmth, and they are brought back to new life. The question really is, what did Paul actually do? It sounds just like, a logbook. So what? Well, the first thing that Paul did was that he gave practical help. There was something practical about what he was doing. He made sure they all had food. He gave them good advice. You know what? Roman soldiers, if these sailors get off this ship, we're not going to be able to get this ship to where we need to go. We need it. And then he was obviously part of that shore team that builds the fire, keeps everybody warm, makes sure that everybody is comfortable and dry. The next thing that he does is that he encourages the people. So first is practical help. He's practically involved. The second is that he encourages people. He holds them together. Again, we look at the difference between the Roman soldiers and the sailors. The sailors kept wanting to get off the boat. They should know that the boat's okay. He encourages them. He gives them advice in how we should survive. And of course, he also is prayerful. He keeps on praying for them, with them, in their safety, and for their safety. He could only do this because he had earned their trust earlier through good advice and through personal support. It's the only way. I've got two stories. We don't have them on the screen now, but you'll see some of the pictures later on at the end of the service. We'll run the slideshow again. There are two stories as I'm preparing for this. The first is, of course, the grounding in January of this year, the grounding of a motor vessel. It's actually a car carrier, a big ugly thing. It doesn't really look like a ship at all. It's just like a big block of flats, square thing. Carries hundreds of cars. Can you imagine the sailors saying, "Oh, we need to save ourselves, let's chuck some cars over into the sea." But anyway, the motor vessel Osaka ran aground near Southampton, and 24 crew members plus the pilot were actually rescued. And the chaplain there, John Attenborough, writes, no, he doesn't speak like the other Attenborough that you all know. He writes here, "I received a call at around 11 p.m. on Saturday night from the Maritime and Coast Guard's agency to tell me that a vessel had run aground in the Solent and that a maritime chaplaincy team was needed to urgently assist. We offered to take the men to the Southampton Seafarer Centre to make them more comfortable. We arrived at the centre at around 2 a.m. The centre manager, Stephen Holbert, had called ahead to centre staff who came straight away. When we arrived there, when we arrived, there was hot soup, coffee, and sandwiches ready for them all. And Amanda, Stephen's wife, had bought blankets, jumpers, and socks. I made sure that all the crew could use my mobile phone. By 4 a.m., the shipping agents and the lawyers had arrived and arranged to transfer the men to a local hotel. We were all there to make sure that there was continuity of care for the men from rescue to hotel. We stayed with them every day to offer support and provided them with basics such as toothpaste, shaving cream, kits, and stuff like that, and simple friendship. The emergency situation was handled with great care, professionalism, and energy by everyone involved. And reflecting on that, like Paul, the day-to-day visits to ships and the running of centres for seafarers made by the chaplaincy team had earned the trust of the seafarers. They could then offer practical support, emotional encouragement, and prayer. Sometimes things don't really go all that well. And also in January, also in the UK, the motor vessel Chelmsford sank for Scotland, and all 8 crew members died. It capsized for some reason. It was actually a cargo vessel that had been converted. I quickly read up on each of these ships this morning, but it was a cargo vessel that had been changed to carry cement. I'm not sure if it was carrying cement. I couldn't quite ascertain that in a quick read, but it was a cement vessel and it capsized in the sea. Tim Tunley, the Mission to Seafarers chaplain, established contact with the local community in Wick, and a service was held in the Scottish Episcopal Church for those who were affected. The mission contacted the partner agency, the Apostleship of the Sea, Poland, where 7 of those 8 crew members lived. And it was a way of helping to ensure pastoral care for families. The mission to seafarers is there for seafarers in tragedy and crisis because of the day-to-day work of visiting ships, the running of the seafarer centres. But the thing is, dear friends, we're so far away from the sea, we can't really get involved in the mission to seafarers. We can't go there and be ship business on a daily basis. But there are other things that we can do here. We are called in crisis to offer practical, emotional, and prayerful support to people who need it. I can say to you, yes, please support the mission to seafarers, and we do. Offering of our time to be a volunteer so we can visit more ships and meet more seafarers, perhaps that's more difficult. But if you do go to the coast, and you do go to near one of the stations, visit. Visit the station. We, in this parish, give 10% of our income to 4 or 5 charities every month. If there are 5 Sundays, then we give 5 charities. If there are 4. One of the beneficiaries this month is Mission to Seafarers. And so we give money to help. But most of all, in specific ministries, particularly like the Mission to Seafarers, we are called to offer our prayers. And that is what we do today. But the message for us today from the readings is, first of all, if you're going to run away from God's call, God's still going to make a plan. He's still going to push you in that direction. Maybe we need to consider responding to God's call on our lives in the way that Simon and Andrew, James and John did. And when we do finally actually respond to our calling, there are 3 things. And I want you just to hold those 3 things today. Be practical. Encourage those you minister to. Encourage those who minister. And be prayerful. Amen. friends, the Mass is ended. Let us go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
In the name of Christ.